Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello, and welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And I'm Dennis Ling.
Is that your drunk voice?
No, it's my... Oh, man, I just got off the road, man.
Well, that's true.
We've been on the road for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of driving.
Man, it has been a long, weekend?
Yeah.
We did drive all the way out to St. Louis and back. That's like 1,000 miles there, 1,000 miles back.
And those two Scottish guys, they would have walked 500 miles. That's insane.
We even put out an episode
We did.
while we were away.
You were editing on the road.
I literally was.
I was amazed.
Yes. I got car sickness.
Yeah.
It was a terrible idea.
It was cool, though. It was cool as the driver.
I was going to say, you were fine.
Wow, you're doing it.
Yeah. That was a terrible idea. So luckily, we are back home in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, where we are ready to watch episode 90. Holy cow. First of all, episode 90.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Wow.
I know. Like, we're going to have 110 episodes. I got to start planning for that. In the meantime, we are episode 90. We're recording this on, well, I don't know. Was it February 9th? That's not what's important. The point is, we're recording it right before Valentine's Day. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I think what we're watching is maybe like a romantic comedy, but I don't know if it is for sure.
Sure it is.
The movie we're going to watch is Arthur. Yeah, this is not an episode of Hollywood Avalon.
Is it a buddy cop movie?
It is not a buddy cop movie.
You don't know? You haven't seen it?
Look, I know enough that this movie, it is Dudley Moore plays a rich guy
All
who
right.
is a perpetual drunk. He meets Liza Minnelli. I have a feeling that she is not supposed to be rich in this. They hook up somehow, and honestly, I don't really know much more about it than that. Like,
Because you haven't seen it.
well, no, I know, but like part of the point of this show is that like films will filter down to me through the culture, and so like I have a vague idea of what some films are. Did I get details in the last episode wrong? Sure. Did I get right that Say Anything is like romance between teens? It's more or less true.
Yeah.
Right, okay. There are other films that we've watched, like Roadhouse was not that hard to figure out. Look, there are films that we've watched that I can figure out what they are just through cultural osmosis. This is one where I really don't know what this movie is, except that it was a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
They made a remake with Russell Brand, who is, I know, right? Yeah, yikes.
I forgot about that. I pushed that out of my brain.
I think everybody wants to forget about Russell Brand at this point.
I mean, I can see why. Because Dudley Moore, nobody respects Dudley Moore, and nobody respects Russell Brand. So,
Nor should they. Well, I don't know about Dudley Moore. I mean, was he part of Beyond the Fringe? Yes.
like he and Peter Cook
Yeah,
did stuff.
Yeah, and I know I saw Bedazzled,
Hmm.
the original version.
I never saw that.
I remember enjoying it, but I was also probably 14 at the time, so who knows, whether it was actually any good. Dudley Moore is one of those guys who I know was famous, but his cultural impact is sort of faded, shall we say? Well, actually, honestly, much like Peter Cook, like his work has not really lived on.
Right.
And this is like the biggest thing he ever did. I don't really know much about it. I think it's set in, well, I know it's set in New York City because
Oh, why?
this song has a huge hit attached to it called The Moon in New York City,
Yeah.
I think, which you've been singing nonstop. And it turns out
Yeah.
one of the writers on this song is Burt Bacharach, who just died.
Oh.
I happen to like Burt Bacharach music.
We've been listening to a lot of his songs on Lizbot's show.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, just now.
Yeah, we're recording this on a Thursday. We were just listening to Liz Bott on WPRB out of Princeton, and yes, she was playing a whole bunch of artists, but one in particular was Burt Bacharach because it came out today that he had died. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. But I like Burt Bacharach. I don't like this particular song. Look, man, this is soft rock to a degree that like I just cannot sanction.
Why you get caught?
Yeah, go on.
Actually, my voice isn't cooperating. So
Yeah.
Not that it's cooperated before.
I was gonna say that has never stopped you. Yeah. So I've kind of given you everything I know. I feel like he is being serviced by a butler in this. I think a famous actor of a previous generation. I want to say it's like Sir John Gielgud or somebody, but I don't know for sure. But I feel like they maybe got an Oscar for it. So I could be wrong, but I'm waiting to get my socks knocked off by his performance. Like, I don't know. Like the butler holds an interesting place in Anglo literature, right?
And American film.
Well, no, but see, when I say Anglo,
Yeah.
I'm talking about England, the United States, Canada, Australia, you know, like the Anglophone countries. So the butler holds an interesting place because, you know, in the United States, that's not really a thing unless you're extremely upper class. And like, there's something sort of un-American about having a butler, right? Not that personal assistants don't exist. Obviously, they obviously do, but that's not considered a normal American thing. When you think of an American, you probably picture like a white cowboy. Unfortunately.
Actually, you know what I think of?
What?
When I think of American butler? I think of Christopher Reeve and Anthony Hopkins at the end of Reigns of the Day.
Oh my God. Now
Yeah.
there's a pull. That's a great pull, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I feel like that's the ideal, you know, like, you stuffy English, I have to have a butler.
oh man. If you've never seen Remains of the Day,
It's a good one.
It's a good one, man. But for the most part, I think when butlers show up in American media, it's Alfred in Batman. I mean, it's kind of the only place where he shows up, really, unless you're. I mean, not really. I mean, okay. Look, Trading Places.
Do you think Warren Buffett has a butler?
I'm sure he has some sort of personal assistant. Like, they exist. Here's the thing. They totally exist in America. We just don't call them butlers.
Oh.
Okay? We don't.
PAs.
Kind of. Like, American ideas of what a butler is sort of all kinds of servants mashed together. Whereas in the UK, it actually is a very specific role where you are the head of running a very large house and you're kind of making sure that everything keeps, you know, it's actually a much more, I don't want to say sophisticated role, but it kind of is. And there's a lot more like you're a manager, okay, and you're kind of overseeing a whole bunch of people beneath you. Yes, on the one hand, you can have like the classic Jeeves, which is, you know, the Jeeves and Wooster novels of P.G. Wodehouse, which I happen to really like, and I also really love the old TV series with Fry and Laurie. But
Laurie has a great English accent.
huh?
I'm
Dennis!
just kidding.
Yeah, you sure are. This is a film set in America. Dudley Moore's Arthur has a butler. He's English. The butler's English. What are these Englishmen doing in the United States? I don't know. Look, I've been rewatching a little bit of Downton Abbey lately. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah.
You mean lately and in the distant past as well?
Yeah. Look,
Repeatedly.
it's February. Things are dreary.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to watch a garden party or something. Look, I don't feel good about this. I'm betraying all of my values.
So I will say I saw this as a kid. I
Yeah.
saw this probably in middle school. And
What appealed to you?
probably the drunk humor.
Oh, no.
So this may be bad.
Yeah, I wonder.
I don't know. I have no idea. So like I remember thinking it was hilarious and thinking like, oh, I have no idea who Dudley Moore is. I guess he's a famous star that I should have known. Was he in 10?
Yes, which is on our list. I've never seen 10. I am just familiar with Bo Derek running on a beach.
I haven't seen it either, but yeah,
That's
that
all I
scene.
know.
Yeah.
That's all I know. So, yeah, Dudley Moore, like, he's one of those guys where like I know who he is, but I've never actually, I think, sat and really watched a whole lot that had him in it. So I'm kind of curious as to why was this such a big hit? I'm pretty sure whoever plays the butler maybe got an Oscar. The song was all over the radio when I was a small child, and I don't know why.
At the time, like, music in film was not, like, there wasn't a lot of big pop hits in film.
I mean, that's not entirely true. You know, we brought up, it's Burt Bacharach, and that goes back to the 60s where he was writing songs that would show up, like Casino Royale,
I'm just saying, like, late 70s, early 80s, film's music had been really bad.
You didn't watch enough Scorsese.
Well, yeah.
Because if anybody knew how to use music,
Well, yeah.
it still does.
I'm just saying that in popular film, like,
Yeah.
it wasn't as big a deal to use, like, pop hits and that
Okay,
kind of
but
thing.
here's the thing. The Moon in New York City
It's
is
a pretty
I don't
good
like
song.
that
Yeah.
song. That song's
Pretty catchy.
terrible. I hate that song. Ugh. Yeah. That song is the sound of it's Sunday night and we're driving back from like my aunt's house and I know I have to go to school tomorrow.
I don't know what that means.
It just feels like depression.
No.
I'm sorry, but it really does.
That's how Seals and Croft is to me.
Well, okay, this is
Yeah.
my Seals and Croft.
Yep.
All right. So
The thing is, I probably don't like this song. It's just that
you like needling me.
yeah.
That's all it is.
definitely-
That's literally all it
exactly
is.
what
You
it is.
just want to needle me by singing a song I don't like. Well, Dennis.
Let's watch this.
Yeah.
So I can't believe on the day that Burt Bacharach dies, we're just gonna trash this song like this.
Man,
But the thing, it's not so much the song; it's the Christopher Cross singing.
Yeah.
that's kind of
it just, man,
it's
I don't dig this song at all. I never will.
Yeah.
And look, I know some of the people who listen to us, like, this is their jam. They
Yeah.
love soft rock. And you know what? More power to them. That's fine. It's just this one song is not my thing, man. And it got an Oscar. It
Yeah.
got best song.
we didn't have much choice back then.
Honestly, I just
Like think of Tootsie.
oh
like
God.
remember how bad that music was?
Oh yeah, I hated it.
Yeah,
There's a lot I hate about Tootsie, actually.
yeah.
I really despise that movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is a better movie than Tootsie.
It is.
Oh, by far.
yeah.
I actually liked this movie, even though I went into it very skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
Much in the way that you went in very skeptically to Say Anything.
Right.
I went into this like, oh man, I'm not gonna like this. This is gonna just annoy the hell out of me. I'm not gonna enjoy this. No, it's surprisingly good.
It is.
Like, it's not high art. It's not like I wasn't emotionally moved in the way I was, say, watching Say Anything or a lot of other films that we've covered. But I liked this. I would watch this again. Like,
See-
if this came on, like, if this was on cable, I would just put this on. It's fine.
I think I just remembered like the first part where he's galvanizing around with the hooker.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, that's really interesting. So this movie is only PG.
Yep.
And yet, the first 15 minutes is him picking up sex workers and taking the woman out to a fancy restaurant and then waking up next to her. Now, we never see them actually engage in anything.
No.
But it's never denied that she is a sex worker.
Yeah.
Like that is the plot. So I found that kind of interesting where it's like,
Sexual situations, as they say.
well, it is, but you don't see anything. Like it's just sort of like. So this movie came out in 1981, so it was filmed in 1980, and I will say that as they're driving around, like Manhattan, it may as well just be Taxi Driver, because they're driving past porno theaters and sex workers. I'm amused at how this film it's sort of glancing off of the debauchery of the time period without actually being too obvious about it.
And she lives in Queens, where the Wolfen are. Sheesh.
That's true. I forgot about that part. You know, Arthur's lucky he didn't run into a wolfen, actually.
I know.
Because they do like to attack the rich.
Yeah.
The whole idea is that he is drunk all of the time. And so it's New York and he's picking up hookers. There's no cocaine in this movie.
No.
Not a sniff, nothing. I found that really fascinating that they're just like, no, we got to make sure that this is clean.
Good old fashioned
Just
booze.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine that he's an alcoholic, you know, but it's fine that he's hanging out with sex workers, but like we can't have any actual drugs involved. So I don't know. I found that very funny.
I thought that all the humor came from drinking, and at first I was like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
That sounds just really dumb. And then we were talking about it, and we're a fan of the Thin Man movies.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of drunk humor in that.
It depends on how it's presented. What works with the Thin Man movies is that you have William Powell and Myrna Loy playing off each other.
Yeah.
So it's not just that they're drunk, but that they're like amiable against each other.
And they're never like falling down drunk.
No.
They're
Like-
always like just cool drunks.
That's the thing. In this, he's so you pointed out, how is he not peeing his pants this entire film?
He is.
Right?
He's obviously doing it.
Like we never see it. But how could that not be happening? He's drinking so much.
And he does not look in control.
No.
He's falling all over the place.
And it's not really a complaint against the film because it's not I don't want to see these things. But there's something very sanitized about the drinking and the debauchery in this. Again, same thing with like we know he picks up hookers. We never see him have sex.
Yeah.
He's constantly drinking. We never
like,
see him vomit. We never see him pass out.
They mentioned vomit. He's like, "Do you have to vomit?" And
that's it.
but he never actually see that. So it's not like Animal House or anything.
And I'm totally fine with that. I
Yeah.
don't need to be grossed out. I don't need to see him wetting himself. Like I really don't. But it is sort of funny when you watch this and you just think, honestly, this would be just like a physical mess.
Yeah.
And he totes right up to the line of being visually a physical mess. His hair is everywhere. And here's the other thing. I just looked this up. How old do you think Arthur is supposed to be?
35.
35 would not be a crazy age, actually. That seems probably right, because the whole idea is that you should have grown up by now.
Yeah. In the 70s, he would be 28.
Dudley Moore was like 45.
Ah,
He's
okay.
older than me.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just watching this. I'm just thinking he's a little too old. Like, I'm not saying who else should be cast or anything like that. I saw like a list of people who supposedly were also like looked at.
What,
like,
George Segal?
yeah, well, okay, George Segal might have been about. I don't know how old Arthur is supposed to be. 35 wouldn't be bad. If he's supposed to be 45, that's insanely old for this character. That's gone from, dude, get your life together, to, oh no, you're just tragic at this point. And I'm saying this because I'm about to turn 44. So like, no, that is not good.
It looks like a lot of American actors were considered.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
And-
what is his accent supposed to be?
I mean, he is British, so.
But his father is American. The actor, I mean, playing his father is American. Like, the accents in this are all over the place. Now, here's the thing. This movie is very much hearkening back to screwball movies from the 30s and the 40s.
Yep.
To an extent, it does not matter that his accent does not actually make sense. Because if you watch any of those movies, you have the whole so-called mid-Atlantic accent. Like, you tell me where Cary Grant's from. Now, you and I both know where he's from.
Yeah.
But you watch any of those
He's
movies.
from Philly.
Sure. Well, okay, Katharine Hepburn. Now, there you go. Katharine Hepburn. Where is she from?
The Martha's Vineyard.
I believe she's from Connecticut.
Yeah.
And she went to Bryn Mawr. Now, you tell me she does not sound like she's from Bryn Mawr, though. I sound more like I'm from Bryn Mawr. I didn't go to Bryn Mawr. I've been there. But no, but what I'm saying is, like, it's fine to have that sort of weird mid-Atlantic accent that doesn't make sense for anything but screwball comedies.
But I think what I guess the idea behind this movie is that John Gielgud is so much his father figure that he's taking his accent practically.
I think you're putting too much thought into
Oh,
this.
no. This is exactly what they did.
Are you serious?
No.
Okay. Can we talk about John Gielgud?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, he's so good in this.
he's great.
He really is. I'm not surprised he won the Best Supporting Actor.
So they talked about Alec Guinness being this role. I think almost any of them could have done it, and it would have been just as good.
yeah, no, I
to
think
be
that's
honest.
yeah.
But they would have been great too. It's
But he's
it's such a juicy English guy in America role.
well, it very much is the Jeeves and Wooster relationship,
And it was, I guess, based on the books.
except that. From what I remember, like Wooster absolutely never winds up with a woman. They're constantly trying to set him up with somebody, and he just because he is a perpetual child, he does not want to be married off to anyone. And so some of the books are all about like Aunt Agatha or whatever trying to set him up and get him married off, and relying on Jeeves to kind of get him out of the situation. But yeah, it very much has that the rich heir who is a just shambles of a human being getting, out of jams through his butler, his trusted servant. But what's interesting here is that they add a layer in that here Hobson, John Gielgud's character, is very much his father figure. And they don't even like beat around the bush towards the end of the film. We do meet Arthur's father, who is trying to set him up to be married off to this Susan character, so that basically marrying off fortunes together and whatnot. He's just has no good relationship with his father. In fact, he always has to be drunk around his father, and that's part of what is the driving motivation of him always being drunk in this film, is that he just cannot deal with his father and what his father expects of him. And every time that he's spending a lot of time around Hobson is when he's actually sober. And with the implication being that this is when he's actually like happy and enjoying himself.
And to be honest, the best lines.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he has some good drunk lines, but like the banter between him and Hobson are.
It's great, and
Yeah.
it's great when they're actually kind of sober, and when they're on a better like kind of playing field. Although there is a lot of fun stuff with Hobson, kind of coming across Arthur very drunk and essentially just saying, "You are a spoiled brat, and I am so sick of you." But in in that sort of loving way that I completely understand, to the point where you actually turned to me and said, "Oh, this reminds me of your mother."
I said that more than once.
Yes, you did.
So your mom is kind of like a no nonsense, show me the books
Yes.
type
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
And just so many times, and it wasn't just like what he was saying; it's just his looks, like the looks he would give, like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
I don't know. It
There is something about the relationship between them that I can kind of see how Hobson would remind you of my mother. Wait a minute, does this mean that Arthur reminds you of me?
No.
I mean, I also like Scotch. Yeah. No, but there is something very very touching about their relationship, and unfortunately kind of the climax of the film. And I did say the climax of this film because I do, if I sat down and I plotted this movie out, I bet I could find a 5-act structure in it.
Yeah.
Because the first act would be just the introduction of Arthur and him with the sex worker, and that whole sort of we're setting the stage of what he's like. The second act would be I have met Linda, who is Liza Minnelli, and just the complications of that. So that the climax of the film is Hobson is dying. I think the implication is he probably has like cancer or something. And frankly, it's 1980, and there isn't a whole lot you can do about cancer in those days.
Like, he jokes about having a tumor.
Yeah, exactly. He may actually have a tumor in his head. Partway through the film, about like half to like 2/3 of the way through the film, Hobson finally, after deciding that Arthur shouldn't go through with this wedding because he's obviously going to be miserable, and then going to Linda, Liza Minnelli, and saying, "Look, you guys figure this out. You shouldn't be apart." He ends up in the hospital. We have this whole wonderful section of then Arthur spending what sounds like maybe a week or two in the hospital with Hobson, and even moving all of like the furniture from the house into the hospital room and trying to make it as much like Hobson's bedroom.
Yeah, there's a chessboard, and it kind of implies that they've been playing chess or something,
Yeah.
but you never actually see that.
Well, even the thing like when Hobson wakes up in the hospital and Arthur has all these presents for him and they're toys, because it's this idea that like you played with me as when I was a child. I know we're coming to the end here, so here is a train, because Arthur early in the film has like a train set and everything, and hats for us to dress up like cowboys and a basketball. These are obviously things for children, but we're coming to the end and let's just play together because this is all we have left.
Yeah.
And you have that moment where Hobson says, you were a good son. This movie doesn't try to leave unsaid things. So often, you have those regrets when somebody is dying of the things that weren't said. And I kind of like where this movie is just like, oh, why do that? Why not just have them be honest with each other? And that's kind of refreshing, that like the driving force of this movie isn't that, oh, I regret never telling this person that I loved them and that, they were important to me.
I feel like that's something that makes the great romantic comedies work, is that there's no actual lying. It's not like that sitcom like, oh, I didn't tell them this because, I was lying or I was scared or whatever. And so I feel like that's what, like, for one thing, that's what I like about this movie. It's something I certainly didn't remember from being a kid or anything. But I like that, like, right away he tells her, like, oh, I'm engaged to be married. Like, after their first date, it's like, there's that. All the cards are on the table almost the whole movie. In fact, even with, like, Hobson being sick, I remembered it being like oh my God, he's dying. How did I not know this? Is how I remembered it. He was aware pretty much right away. He wasn't surprised to go to the hospital or anything. It's like, yeah, I gotta deal with this. It's not a lot of like, kind of fake drama,
Sometimes farce is built around duplicity.
Yeah.
And this is not built around duplicity per se. It's more, everybody knows he's not in love with Susan, except for Susan. And you get the feeling that deep down Susan knows that like they have nothing in common. This is about money, but she's willing to play the game, right? Because this is what she's been bred to do.
Well, actually, what I found interesting is that scene where they're at the restaurant and she says, "You're lonely, you're sad." And before he meets Linda, he is lonely and sad. It's like she definitely knows him.
His time with Linda has been so like compressed and short, but Susan doesn't realize that actually he has changed.
Yeah. As far as Susan's concerned, everything's the same, and it's like, yeah, we're not the closest or something, but like.
But there's no reason for you not to marry me.
Right.
It's like he knows he should probably break this off with Linda, but he at one point he's just like, well, look, I'm gonna get married, but like I don't know, like could I set you up in an apartment? And you can see Linda just be like, no.
But he does that when he's drunk.
Once Hobson gets sick, he sobers up, but he also commits to like, I have to marry Susan, or otherwise my family's gonna cut me off for money. And once Hobson dies, he's like, I'm getting extremely drunk because now I have to get married.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny that like this is like the reverse of that, where this is when he finally actually does make the right decision.
Right.
And says, you know what, I'm not going to go through with this. I'm not saying the film is well plotted out.
Well, there is a sequel, Arthur 2, Life on the Rocks or something like that. And
do you think that's going to be worth watching?
I don't know, but like you get the feeling that this he doesn't really grow up.
Sure.
I mean, he's still a rich playboy at the end.
Well, yeah, because we haven't even gotten like, okay, we didn't really talk a lot about his relationship with Linda, or Linda at all, really.
Right.
So that's Liza Minnelli in this, and she's great, of course. It's Liza Minnelli in 1980. What's not to love? She's wonderful, and she's funny, and she's quick, and she has all these wonderful like little one-liners that she tosses off. It's weird that we haven't talked a lot about her, except that like she's just kind of perfect.
Yeah.
We meet her. She is shoplifting at the department store. Arthur instantly just falls in love with her while watching her, and it's great because she's just got like on this jacket and this like cowboy hat and whatnot, and she's not inconspicuous.
Yeah.
And it's almost like because she's not inconspicuous, it's like, are you dressing this way maybe to throw people off? Like no, seriously, there's maybe a psychology to this, that like if you dress loud, are you thinking like I'm drawing attention to you, so you're not going to look at me? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But of course she gets caught anyway. And so Arthur comes to her rescue because he's just instantly falls in love with her when he's watching her at the department store. And yeah, I mean, she's working class. She lives in Queens with her father. Her father is played by Barney Martin. And the moment I'm watching this, I'm just like, oh my God, that's Jerry Seinfeld's dad on Seinfeld.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is him?
That is him.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's totally him. It's one of these things where I'm like watching and just like, oh yeah, I know that guy's face.
The not as funny dad in Seinfeld.
Come on, you're comparing him to Jerry Stiller.
Jerry Stiller's amazing.
Yes. I
He
mean,
makes that show.
God, yeah. So her father's played by Barney Martin. He's fun in this. He's actually quite good.
Yeah. Kind of like just jokes for him. Like
Oh, yeah.
He like like as soon as she tells him that he's a millionaire, he's like, "You have my permission to marry him." Yeah. And that's his note. That from then on, that's the only thing he does. He's like a total slut for Arthur
money, yeah.
from then on.
So they live in Queens, and she works as a waitress in a diner. And I will say, like, at the end of the film, when Arthur comes into her diner to ask her to, come with me, I'm getting married, break it up. Boy, I was just like, I really miss diners. Oh God, because like they're disappearing, right? Especially ones like in the middle of cities. Like Philadelphia used to have 7 diners within just Center City, right? Midtown 1 through 4.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of like diners in Philadelphia, and like they're almost all gone, and it makes me so sad. I just want to sit at a counter and eat a hamburger and drink some coffee, and have like cigarette smoke like wafting like a foot above my head. I miss diners so much. I'm just watching this. I'm just like,
I love the whole trope of it, and it's almost always a New York City thing where lovers are arguing in a public place and everyone is throwing in their own 2 cents. Like,
I actually kind of like that trope too.
It's pretty fun. I mean, there's the great one in Coming to America where it's in a subway and everyone's like, you should marry him, like, and all that kind of thing.
It's funny you bring up Coming to America because that's another film which is very much working in that 1930s screwball sort of vibe, and so this movie is very much within a sort of 1980s revival of screwball comedies, class comedies. There were a lot of films like that at the time. We started this podcast with one, really, 9 to 5, which was very very much in the vein of like class conscious comedies. Obviously, like you said, Coming to America, Trading Places is another one. Big Business is one. Down and Out in Beverly Hills is another one. So this very much fits into that genre of reviving the kind of comedies from the 30s and the 40s, where it's one person is working class and the other person is rich. Basically, this is working within a certain genre, and it even revives it in certain ways, like you just mentioned, with having crowds sort of become part of a chorus, working with the lead characters. And here it's in the diner, or it's that scene where he is saving her from the security guard. Where all there's the crowd of people surrounding them. So I love how it's kind of reworking those elements from older films. Arthur shows up drunk to his own wedding, which, I mean, I was hungover at our wedding, but I wasn't drunk. Ends up breaking up with Susan. It's not backstage, but what else are you going to call it? It's backstage at the wedding. I mean, it's churches don't really have a backstage, but you get the idea. Yeah. And then her father comes in to beat them up.
And then stab him.
Yes. Susan's father is terrifying in this. And I mean, yes, he's supposed to be terrifying, but he really is. Like, he has a whole speech about how he killed a guy when he was 11 years old. He comes at Arthur with a knife at one point. It's just like, oh my God. They end up breaking up, and the idea is that like Arthur is choosing poverty, because if he doesn't marry Susan, the family's going to write him off, and he's going to have to basically make it on his own.
Yeah, he's going to go down to live at the docks with William Powell.
Yes, exactly.
And all the other layabouts.
All the other hobos. So he ends up saying, yeah, you know what? I'm in love with Linda. I don't want, the money, fine, whatever. The person who was my real father is gone. I'm drinking in part because I don't have anything to live for, but I finally found somebody. So you know what? Fine. She's going to take me home and she's going to feed me a tuna fish sandwich.
And then he says the one thing that his grandmother cannot bear to hear. I'm going to get a job.
Yeah, she has this whole line about nobody in our family has ever been working class. Like, this is
Yeah.
the worst thing that could happen. Except that at the very, very end, as his grandmother is saying, essentially cursing him, and I'm going to write you out of the will, he goes up to her car, and we don't hear what he says before she drives off. And then he comes back to Linda, and with the assumption that, he is now broke and he's going to fire his chauffeur, he then turns around and says, well, obviously I took the money.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And then it's the party.
And then, yay, they drive off with the chauffeur, and they're
happy
going to...
music.
I mean, it's a little weird that after all that, he doesn't have to do anything.
No,
Like, he actually doesn't have to grow up.
no.
He's not going to lose
Not
any
at all.
money. He doesn't have to marry the girl.
No.
When you actually think about it,
Yeah.
I'm not saying the ending is dumb, but it's like, well, wait a minute. Then what was all of that for? I mean, the whole idea was that they were going to hold this over his head. If you don't get married, you're getting cut off forever.
Yeah.
And then they finally decide, well, we're not going to cut you off.
He's grown as a person.
But I mean, kind of, but for how long?
You know what? He did not grow as much as
He grew enough that he needs a sequel.
yeah, but he didn't grow as much as Little Master Bates in
no.
the toy.
Shh, 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 shh.
I'm just saying that there's a corollary though.
Shh, we will not talk about that movie.
Just
We
saying.
have to forget that movie exists. No,
But that
is
kid
the
at
worst.
least
Look, that's
grew
the
to
worst
start,
movie.
support the newspapers.
Are you trying to argue that the toy has a better ending?
A little bit. At least more of an arc for its main, not main character.
Do you know how horrifying this is? The idea that The Toy, the second worst film that we have covered on this show,
What's the worst?
Metal Storm.
Come on.
Metal Storm.
No.
Metal Storm is the worst movie we have watched for this show. I will go down in blazes arguing this. That movie, you can't watch that movie. I will rewatch any movie we have covered except Metal Storm.
Well, not in 2D.
What?
In 3D though.
No.
Come on.
No.
It's gotta be better than.
No, I will poke out one of my own eyes so that I can't watch things in 3D instead of rewatching, Metal Storm, the destruction of Jared Sin, who is not even destroyed in that movie.
I'm gonna watch it.
Why?
Maybe it wasn't as bad as we remember.
Look, the point is, that's the worst movie we watched. The second worst movie we watched was The Toy, which also I will say is trying to do a whole bunch of 1930s class conscious comedy stuff, but it's a terrible movie. And you're arguing that character, Master Bates.
The little kid.
Yeah, I know who he is.
I don't remember his.
No,
first
that's
name.
his character though.
Yeah,
Has a better arc than Arthur.
a little bit.
You know what sucks?
What?
You're right.
I know. I'm not saying it's a better movie. I'm just saying
Yeah, but he
that
does have a better arc. That sucks.
Yeah.
That's awful.
because he's a monster, and then he's less of a monster, but
And Arthur is a drunk, and he's a drunk.
he's still drunk.
He's still a drunk, and he has no comeuppance. Nothing happens to him in the end. He gets to drive off in that fancy car, and now he has Liza Minnelli, which is a huge upgrade.
Yeah,
Nothing bad happens to him, except for Hobson dying.
yeah.
I don't know, man. This movie is a lot of fun, but when you actually sit there and start thinking about it,
Well, it's so
bring out the guillotine.
So I was bringing up, Broadway Melody.
Oh, you brought up My Man Godfrey. You brought up...
But Broadway Melody is this same story where it's a low class woman falls in love with the head of a studio or something like that.
Oh my God, you're right. Let's explain what we're talking about here. Broadway Melody of 1929.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not a good film.
No.
Although it won the second Best Picture ever.
And Bessie Love, we just
And
saw.
we just saw Bessie Love in the film Reds.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right that there is something kind of this is from the other perspective.
I feel like that plot works better if you focus, if say in this case you focused on Liza Minnelli,
Yeah.
but there's no change in Arthur here.
No, not at all. And you know what? So much of this film is surprisingly fun that I can, especially with like all of the cutting remarks that Gielgud gets.
Yeah, he's great.
And just how much Liza Minnelli just glows on screen the whole time. God, I love her so much in this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I can live with it.
Yeah.
I guess I can live with the fact that it is a deeply flawed film when you actually sit and think about it.
So I read this book, Class, by Paul Fussell,
Okay.
and it brings up the idea that like there's all these class levels in America. You know, there's like middle class, upper middle class, lower middle class, and whatever. It suggests that the two levels that are actually the closest are the extremely high and extremely low. And I feel like that this movie agrees with that or something, in that, you know, when you're at this mega rich level, like you don't lie. Why would you lie? You don't care. No press can affect you at all. You know, you have Roy Cohn to, you know, take care of anything
Yeah.
that happens to you in the early 80s New York City.
That's a very specific reference, honey.
Yeah. And then she's, you know, low class. She's, you know, like she has nothing to lose. There's all these kind of middle characters in between them. There's like, you know, these like butt kisser guys who like at the office, and you know, there's this millionaire that worked himself up, and he's obviously not at that level yet. I feel like that those old screwball movies kind of
Are working with the same idea.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was Arthur, written and directed by Steve Gordon, starring Dudley Moore, Liza Minnelli, John Gielgud, Jill Eikenberry, Stephen Elliott, Barney Martin. Oh gosh, just a bunch of different people in there. You can follow us on social media. We're Mary vs. Movies on Twitter and Instagram and Mastodon, where it's Mary vs. Movies at mas.to. We are Mary versus the Movies on Tumblr, and we do have a website that is supposed to come out, but we've had an extremely weird and busy 6 months. Look, man, I don't even know where to begin to describe both of us had COVID at different times, and people died, and yeah, it's been a time. So yeah, that will be coming out. We have a Patreon where you can help support the show. That is Mary vs. Movies. And yes, Hollywood Avalon is coming. I promise you. Like, we have it all planned out. Believe me, I've got like at least 3 years worth of movies to watch for that show. Let's see. We are on all of the major platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review us. So please do that, because it'll get more eyes on our ears on our podcast. Yeah. We are on Stitcher and Spotify. I don't know how you get eyes on it. I'm not typing this out. Come on, man. I apologize to the deaf. It's not fair, but I don't have the time to type this out. Nor is it that interesting to read for our part, I think. Let's see. You can listen to us on Stitcher and Spotify and Google Play. We are on, Overcast. You can go to RSS. You can go to Libsyn and get our RSS feed and plug that into whatever your podcatcher of choice is. Now, all right, we did 2 romance movies, more or less.
Should I get the thing?
Oh yeah, get the thing, because we've got a choice between 2 films for the next 2 films, which are going to be probably terrible. Yeah. Oh no, this is gonna be good. Let's see. Friend of the show, 2-time guest, Alana, suggested to us a film. Actually, she may have suggested both films at different times. But she sent us the film Happy Together with Helen Slater and Patrick Dempsey, which apparently is not very good.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
So, but
Thanks, Alana.
I can't wait personally. So it's like that versus the film Angel.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
She suggested that before, but
Yes.
yeah, I'm kind of curious about that one.
Yeah. The I guess I'm a
Murderous hooker.
Murderous hooker Catholic schoolgirl movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, is it going to be next episode? Will it be Happy Together or Angel? Heads, Happy. Tails, Angel.
What was
We got a heads, which is Happy Together.
Okay.
All right, so the next episode will be Happy Together.
Yeah, because Angel, I don't think is like a romantic one.
No, but it sounds like a trip.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time.
You're a hooker? Jesus, I forgot. I thought I was doing great with you.
It is a funny movie.
There's a lot of